Hello and welcome to the Tiny Human Knits podcast. My name is Laura and I'm coming to you from Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, where I live with my boyfriend, our cat, and our rabbit. You can find me online as Tiny Human Knits pretty much everywhere, and I will have links to all of my social media and everything else I talk about in the description box below this video. Hello and welcome, or welcome back. It is the 23rd of December today, and I really just want to film this to document some of the things I'm working on, because I, for the first time in a long time, don't actually have any work to do in between Christmas and New Year, which is wild to think about. I'm going to really try hard not to cast on something new every single day, but I kind of want to see how many things I can get finished in that time. So I don't want to just come on here for a new video in the next year and just bombard you with finished objects, which will probably happen anyway. But it's also been a while since I filmed a video. As many of you know, there was a Canada Post strike that was going on for a really long time, so that I made the decision personally for my own business to just delay an update until it was resolved. It never got resolved. They were forced back to work, but I will be having an update in the new year. It'll be, I think I decided January 5th, which is a Sunday, which is not my usual day to do it, but because it's going to be such a big update, I wanted to do it on a day that had more availability for more people. So I'm just going to do this really quick at the top. The update's going to be the Nutcracker colorway, the self-striping sock colorway. I'm sure most of you are familiar with that now, considering I keep making projects in those colors. And then also I did finish the Enoch bags, which I'm very excited about. So those will be in the shop as well. And then I also have another new colorway coming to the shop in that same update. As well as, like, I've done a sort of craft room clear out. I am so bad for especially sewing projects, cutting out fabric, starting projects, and then abandoning them about 50% the way through when it comes to my shop. So there's a good bundle of project bags as well. And then I have some yarn that I've dyed that hasn't really been for anything that I've bundled up, and that will also be in the shop update. So there's going to be a lot of things. And yeah, that will be the 5th of January at 1 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time, the time I normally do. And then I'll ship out the week after. So if you've been waiting for that, for an update for that, that is when it will be up. And yeah, so in the meanwhile, so I had most of that stuff ready before, well, right after the postal strike started. So I've just kind of been making up work for myself, but also I've been giving myself a lot of time to just do things for fun, and it's been awesome. And I'm really excited for the next week and a half or so, 2 weeks, to just continue doing that and not have to worry about work at all, which I'm really excited about. This is blattery. I'm going to start just by telling you really quick what I'm wearing. This is my third Gartrell crew. It's a pattern by Tanis Lavely. This is my Christmas one. And I knit this out of my own hand-dyed yarn, and it's in the colorways that are out of my Season's Greeting socks, self-striping sock. And I absolutely love it. I really, really love this pattern. I'm sure you know that. I have plans to make more. I have yarn to make more already. So you can expect to see that in the new year as well. So I'm going to move right along, and I'm going to start with my finished objects. I technically have 4, but one of them was the last of the children's sweaters that I was making for my cousin Kayla, which I have already mailed out, so I do not have that. If I can be bothered, I will put up a picture. If I can't be bothered, there will be no picture. I didn't enjoy knitting that sweater because the pattern is awful. It's called the Little Pop Cardigan. There's so many mistakes. The numbers don't match up. So half the time there's no number for the size you're looking for. It's ridiculous. I wouldn't recommend it. I can't remember who designed it because I'm not going to recommend it to anybody. The yarn was the Lyon brand Wool Ease in the Canyon Sunset colorway, which matches one of the mini season sweaters that I did for the littlest of the children. So I'm really, really happy with all of those as like a collection, as a set. I think my cousin's really, really gonna like them. Remind me next year to not do that because it's stupid and it takes a lot of time and yarn. So next year, I think I mentioned it before, but I'm gonna try to pare down the gifts that I make. I did say that I wanted to do it where I had to use stuff that I already had. I kind of want to lean more even further into it and just avoid it, because I spend so much money and time on gifts, and it really gets to a point where it's become ridiculous. So I need to not do that. So we're gonna try so hard. Jason doesn't count in that because we live in the same house, so I can pilfer said thing, and usually with him, because he is a man who will wear anything I make for him, which is, I feel, so rare based on the men that I know. I can make anything, and it's amazing. So he has a tendency to get a lot more because of that, which he loves. It's like a win-win situation. But really blathery today. I have 3 finished objects to show you, and they are all new sock colorways. And the first one I'm going to show you is actually the new colorway that's going to be in the shop update in January. And that colorway is called Bite Me. It's this right here. This was going to be my January update color anyway. It's a Valentine's Day colorway. It's based on Conversation Hearts, and I love it a lot. I just finished dyeing it yesterday, so I'm going to finish winding it up today. So it's all ready. I just need to label everything, and then it's just going to wait for the update. So all of my finished socks today are my normal sample sock, 64 stitches on a 2.25 millimeter needle, about 22 rows of 2x2 ribbing, heel flap and gusset, and a wedge toe. Very basic, very easy, very fun, very, very fun. I really enjoyed knitting these. I had started them because a lot of times when I dye up new colorways, I'll knit a sock to where I need to put the heel in. And a lot of times a color needs multiple versions. I knit almost every single sample that I make, regardless if it's the final one or not. You just don't see them because I rip them out. And I had it set aside when it got up to the point where it needed a heel because I knew I loved it, but it wasn't the time for it. I had other ones I needed to make first. So I had to finish all those up first, and then I got to make these, and I was very excited. It was like a motivation for me. That's probably why I have 3 finished objects for 3 pairs of socks. So yeah, those will be available in my shop in January, and I love them a lot. And they'll be available in the usual 50 gram 50 gram fingering, 100 gram fingering, and then 100 gram DK, all with a contrasting mini. My usual, the norm. So the next finished pair of socks is this pair right here. And these are the ones that are based off of the, sort of based off of. So I'm working on, if you remember, the Kai Fella sweater, which is, I'm knitting out of the colors from a fabric that I bought and used as a lining to make a jacket for Jason, which I have worn way more often than him. That's kind of the point of me making things for him a lot of the time. He's not that much bigger than me. So yeah, this lining that I used for the inside of the jacket is so beautiful. So I dyed up the yarn to knit the Kai Fella sweater, which I put to the side because it was so tedious and I needed a break from it. I'm going to take it out again soon. And then I wanted a self-striping as well. So this pair is probably going to be called like Plaid something. I still haven't decided, but I do like them a lot. And I'm thinking this colorway will be available as the sock yarn, and I might do a few sweater sets as well. I need to finish my sweater to see how much yarn that takes specifically, and just to make sure I have my numbers all correct. But I'm thinking it might be March or April that I might have that in the shop, but I'm not sure yet. It will depend. So the last finished object I have is actually a Christmas colorway that I meant to have out this year, but because of the strike and the delay for me, I'm just saving it for Christmas in July when that comes around, which I've sort of decided that when it comes to like Christmas colorways and updates and like sweater sets for Christmas sweaters, I think I might do it more in a Christmas in July setting. That way there's not as much stress when it comes to shipping being slow or anything like that. And then also my yarn dries faster because it's so warm, so I can get more yarn dyed. Anyway, so this one is called Father Christmas. It's a very basic color sequence, which I like a lot. Sometimes simple is nice. And yeah, I used it for a little bit of, I used the contrast color a little bit for the cuff, and then I also did, I don't normally do cuff, heel, and toe in a contrast color, but this one I felt it just looked really nice. And yeah, 64 stitches again, all of them are now. It's going to make it so much easier when it comes to getting them used. Because as some of you may know, I don't normally wear socks, so I stopped making them for my own size. So those are my finished objects. I haven't worked any more. Well, actually I have. Last time I showed the table topper and the table runner that I was making. Hilariously, they will not be done for this Christmas, even though it would have been no time at all. I did do some machine quilting on both of them and trim them. They just need their binding, and then I'm going to do some hand quilting. I just was too lazy to go and see what quilting thread that I had, because I needed a certain color and I'm not sure if I have it, so I need to go through that and just see if I have it, and then I can do the quilting. But it won't be for this year anyway, so I'm not really fussed about it. Now that it's sort of past a probable deadline, I'm just gonna set it aside, and it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But I have 2 new works in progress that I have been spending a great deal of time on, and I'm having so much fun doing it. The first that I will show you is my Advent project, or my countdown calendar project. I mentioned last time that I dyed up a few Advent, I keep calling it an Advent, it's not Advent, a few countdown calendars for December. I had been sent, I had ordered DK mini skeins from my Berry Yarn supplier, and they had sent me fingering weight, and I don't use that base that I ordered for my normal sock sets. So I kept them aside, and I had the idea of dyeing some countdown calendars with them. And I did. And actually, this project is going to show you every color but one. So I decided to cast on another Lyon sweater by PetiteKnit, and this is because I used that pattern for my Nutcracker sweater, and then I was watching Heartstopper, the 3rd season, I think, and there is a sweater that Charlie wears in that season that was so beautiful, and it was sort of a marled, it didn't have as many colors in it, obviously, but it was a kind of marled set-in sleeve sweater, and I really liked it, and that's why I got the idea to use the Lyon sweater as a base for me to do a marled countdown calendar color thing. Anyway, so yesterday I bound off the body, so you get days 1 through 23, and I just have the needles on here for the collar, but this is what it looks like. It's a bit rumpled because the way that I knit makes really, really, really rumply sweaters. I've noticed. This is why my socks, when I knit them and they're unblocked, they're so lumpy. And I've noticed when I look at other, not everybody obviously, but like a lot of other people when they show their works in progress, they're a lot more smooth than mine are. So I think the way that I knit makes it's just a little bit lumpy bumpy, and that's okay. It all blocks out in the end. So I am knitting the large size, and I'm knitting it on 4mm needles and 3.5 for the ribbing. And what I did to start off is actually I had a couple skeins of the same base in 50 grams. So I dyed up an initial color before day 1 to do the back panel, and then the 2 fronts, and then for when you join, or when you pick up the stitches for the sleeve cap. And I used that color until just past the join in the round. And that is because I wanted to be able to do the ribbing at the top, at the collar, to be the same color as the first top section. For multiple reasons, I didn't want to deal with the ends that would come from doing, like, starting the color right at the top and having to like cut the yarn so often. And for 2, I needed the length. I didn't have enough colors and enough amount of each color to get the length that I needed if I started it right at the top. Because the nice thing about having knit this already before is that I knew exactly how many rows I needed to get the length that I wanted. So I just calculated out of that number of rows, how many stripes could I do of each color before I would, for the length. I'm not explaining this very well. But so what I ended up doing is that when I started doing my marling, I opened day 1 and I did 3 rounds of holding 1 strand of my initial like day 0 color and the day 1 color. And then I cut the day 0, and then I did 3 rounds of holding day 1 by itself, like together, 2 strands together, and then 3 rounds of day 1 and day 2 held together, and then 3 rounds of day 2 together, and so on and so forth. And it's basically exactly what I was hoping for. I did cheat a little bit, and I have the row that you have to do the sleeve separation on. I have no idea if I have enough of the initial skein of that. I don't think I do, and I was a little bit naughty and I dyed up another mini skein of that color because I didn't want to have to finagle it. I just wanted it to be easy. And I also took out, there's one color that I took out, and that was day 6. That was initially, so this yellow stripe here, this pale yellow stripe is day 5, and this green is technically day 7. I had another color in there, and it was just making it so that there was too much of a big section of a pale color right across the chest, and I thought that would look strange. So I just ripped back and took that out, but I am very, very happy with how this has turned out. I'm so happy. And because the reason I ended it on day 23, and the reason for that is because I know compared to my last Lyon sweater, the sleeves are longer, so they actually need more color, I guess. And since I haven't used day 24 at the bottom of this, I'll be able to do a longer cuff in day 24 in that color. And that was my plan. And I'm gonna sneeze. So yeah, now I've just picked up my stitches for the collar, and I'm not gonna do a folded collar. I didn't do it on my last one either. I'm not a huge fan of a folded collar. I feel like sometimes it can look really bulky unnecessarily. I feel like if you had something that was heavily cabled or had a lot of texture, folded collar doesn't look that weird. Or if it's like really oversized, but I find like with this, I'm quite happy with my original version having just a single layer of a collar. And I also don't do tubular bind-offs because I don't like them. I really like the straight edge of a bind-off, like the line that it makes. I really like that. So it's all preference, isn't it? But yeah, I love this sweater. I am considering, I'm pretty sure I will. I'm thinking next year for people who maybe don't like the idea of a countdown that's a surprise, which I completely get. I'm kind of like that. I might offer this color sequence as like a countdown calendar for those who don't like surprises, who like to know what they're getting. Because I really like it. So I feel like maybe some other people might too. I'm really excited to finish that up in block as well. I think it's going to be so nice. And yeah, the yarn I'm using for that is a 75/25 merino nylon, and it is 92 yards per 20 grams, which means that it actually does knit up to about a DK weight gauge. My normal base is an 80/20, and it's 80 yards per 20 grams, which would make it a worsted weight if you were to hold it double. So I really like the idea of having this base as well, because it means that it's not going to be too chunky when you're marling it together. Blah, 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 blah. My second new work in progress is something I am so excited by. I have been wanting this sweater for a long time, and the fact that I'm knitting it in this color is delightful. But the other day, recast on my Ingrid. I cast one on last year, almost exactly a year ago actually, and I cast on using 2 strands of woolly knit and a strand of mohair, and I just didn't like the fabric. I didn't particularly like the color, so it just felt like a slog and I wasn't knitting it. So I recast on my Ingrid sweater with Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the Rooibos Heather color, and I love it so much. And this is where it's really going to show that my knitting is really it's really something before blocking. But here it is. It's very lumpy, it's very bumpy, it's very funny looking. But I've tried it on, love the fit when I stretch it out a bit. But yeah, I just finished the body. I would do my 6 rounds of my Lyon sweater, and then any other knitting time I had throughout the day was on this sweater. So they just happened to both end at I ended the body at the same time, which was annoying because it was a lot of 1x1 rib doing 2 sweaters with a long rib. But I love this so much. This color is so nice. It's going to be so warm and comfy. And I've done the large size in this as well. It is also knit on 4mm needles. I was doing some needle sharing with these 2 projects at the beginning as well. But it is so nice. I'm so happy. I can't wait to block it because it looks ridiculous right now. But yeah, this color is one of my favorite colors ever. I'm really considering ordering some more of this. I know Knit Picks usually has a Boxing Day sale, like after Christmas till the end of the year. I am considering it. I don't know if that's strictly necessary because that seems a bit excessive, but if I end up ordering yarn for more cardigans for Jason, I might just sneak in some there. I don't think this is going to use up my whole stash of it either. But who knows? The sleeves might take more than I expect. But I love it. I love it so much. I'm so happy with it. And this is also a pattern by PetiteKnit. I'm sure you know that. A lot of people have knit this. But yeah, I've just been enjoying this. I love Knit Picks Wool of the Andes. It's probably my favorite yarn ever. If I had to use only one yarn forever, it would probably be that because it's lovely. What else to say about this? I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I love how the different textures are. I'm quite pleased with how neat my ribbing is. All that stuff. It is absolutely covered in cat hair. You know, the normal. I'm probably going to finish the collar on my Lyon, and then I'm going to do the collar on this and then pick up a sleeve on both and then see about all of that, because this one's a lot more straightforward, which is kind of funny because there's so many different like textures and stuff, but I don't have to keep changing the yarn color. And I really like it a lot. It's great. I love it. Having a lot of fun making that. And then the only other things is I'm working on a couple pairs of socks because I almost always have socks on my needles. I put in a few rounds on my Souffle by Penrose. This one's not a priority, and it takes a lot of concentration for me because knitting one strand of mohair by itself, I need to look at what I'm doing. So I've gotten to the point of joining in the round, and I'm just on another increase round, so I'm gonna probably sit down and just stare at it for a while. But this is out of my own hand-dyed mohair. It's in the colorway Brick Dust. And I might try to dedicate some time to this during the in-betwixt time. But yeah, just that. And then the only other thing that I've been working on with any sort of regularity besides work stuff is I did start a new quilt. This is sort of an accident. When I finished up the Enoch bags, which took forever and a day, I was a bit tired of them by the end, I'm not gonna lie. But I just it's one of those things for me, when I finish something that takes a lot of energy and time, I kind of want to do the same thing but with like less stakes. So I pulled out a bin of a pre-cut quilt. I like to cut out my quilts in bulk and then just put them in bins, and they're in my closet, basically. So when I have the time to make a quilt, it's already figured out. And I pulled this one out because I knew that I hadn't cut out all of the pieces for it. So it's called the Wild Star quilt. I will put a link because if you search up a Wild Star quilt, there's another quilt that comes up way before anything about this one comes up. And this is actually a free pattern. So I will link it for you. It's a scrappy quilt pattern, and this is the first time I've done a scrappy quilt, and I'm loving it so much. So I'm going to show you some of the blocks that I've made. It's just a sawtooth star fairly basic. But I've used a bunch of scrappy backgrounds as well, which is such a nice thing to do. It uses up so much fabric. But the thing is that these are actually supposed to be, the points are supposed to go all the way to the top. They're supposed to like fill it up. There was a mistake in the pattern that I downloaded. I didn't realize that they had fixed this mistake, and it's a stupid thing because it's a mistake that doesn't make any sense. So I should have known it was a mistake. But in the pattern, it says that these, when you're making these flying geese, you're supposed to cut out these squares at 2 3/4. Basic, easy. In the one that I had downloaded, it said 2 3/5, which doesn't make sense. That's not how quilting works. But for some reason, my brain read it as 2 3/8, which kind of worked out because a lot of these bits that are cut out are from a jelly roll, and jelly rolls are only 2.5 inches wide. So I wouldn't have been able to get 2 3/4 from that fabric, which it worked out. So I just had to do some math and figure out what size the other pieces had to be. And I actually kind of like the way these look better, where the stars are kind of smaller. But so I used a bunch of scrap fabric, and to make it so that I wasn't overthinking where things were going and like thinking about it too hard, I had all of my pieces beside me on the left, and then I had a bin with all of my scrap pieces, and I wouldn't look at it when I went to grab one. And the only time I ever did any sort of like management was when I was sewing them together like this or like on the block. I just made sure I didn't have one that was exactly the same. And out of 36 squares, there are only 2 blocks that have the same fabric on them, which is so nice. Actually, this is one of them. So this has 2 of those reds. And then now I'm just making the sashing that goes in between. So here and here. And it's going to have scrappy sashing as well. And then there's going to be smaller squares in the joins right here. And I'm making those right now. And honestly, if I really tried hard, I could probably finish this tonight, but that would be ridiculous because it mean I wouldn't get anything else done. But I love these so, so much. And I am seriously considering making some project bags like this. Because I have a lot of scrap fabric. Like, I've got a lot. I've made quite a few quilts in my life now. Since the last 4 years. It's a ridiculous amount of quilts, actually. And I just love them so much. I'm not going to show you all of them because that would be silly. But I am having so much fun. I'm having so much fun doing that. And then also, I'm going to start another quilt. Hopefully I'll finish this one first. Again, shouldn't take long. But I'm going to start another quilt because Stacy from Stress Knits has been working on these panels from a quilt pattern that I think are so nice. So I went and bought that pattern, and then I went through my pretty substantial fabric stash, and I pulled out an absolutely gorgeous array of solids, because I bought a bunch of solids for a different project years ago. Now they're just taking up space, and I'm really determined to clear out a lot of my craft supplies. Like, I have enough. I've got lots. I need to use it. So next year I really want to focus on sewing the garments that I have fabric for, which I have quite a bit, sewing the quilts that I have fabric for, not buying more fabric for more quilts, do the ones I already have, knit the yarn that I've got, because that's the good stuff. It's really exciting to do that. But that's my plan. So, and then also I want for some of these quilts to do scrappy backgrounds, like background fabric as well, backing fabric, because I have a lot of just really random bits. Like, I went through all of my fabric a couple months ago, and I have 6 different squirrel-based fabrics for some reason. Don't know why. Don't know what I was trying to theme, but I'm gonna try to use it next year. It's gonna be fun. I wanna see how much I can do when I'm not making gifts for people all the time. That's the goal. So next time, I wouldn't be half surprised if I was here showing you a bunch of finished objects. Those 2 sweaters likely to be done by next time. I really want the Ingrid sweater done by my birthday, which is 10 days after Christmas. So there's that. And there are a few new colorways that I really want to develop as well. So I'm going to go do that and, you know, clean up after my rabbit because he's so messy. And I will see you next time. I hope you all are having a wonderful holiday regardless of what you celebrate, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!